What's up gamers, Fatty Cake here, and welcome to my third and final installment of my gear progression guides, this time on the Mele skill. I'm actually, I've been dreading making this guide, which is why it's so long coming out. Because Mele itself is so much more niched out than Mage and Range, it's really going to depend more on what content you want to do than just a general progression. But I'm going to try my best to give you a general progression. Anyways, I'm going to be doing this by GP value of the setup. The reason for that is that it is much quicker to get the skills required for the gear than it is to get the gear itself. So likely by the time you can afford the gear, you definitely have a high enough level to get the gear. First up, we have the max free-to-play setup. What is more iconic than the full rune with the rune skimmy that we all started off with? You need an attack level and a defense level matching of 40 to wield this, and you're coming in with a melee strength of 54. Unlike the Mage and Range, there isn't an ultra budget version of this that just costs pennies. This free-to-play setup is going to cost you a whopping 145k. Congratulations, you just got membership, and the first thing that you are getting is going to be your Dragon Scimitar. This is bumping up our slash accuracy, our melee strength, and it is going to require 60 attack. Some more super cheap upgrades that we can get now that we're a member are the Amulet of Glory, the combat bracelet, and the climbing boots for a total of around 22k. We're going to increase our stats and strength pretty considerably. You're going to want to get yourself a blessing. Anyone will do when you're first starting off. It's going to give you 1 prayer bonus. I'm going to put the Rada's Blessing 4 on here since it is best in slot. You will not have access to it at this level yet, but it is a good goal to work towards. Also, the Explorer's Ring can be gotten from the Lumbridge Diaries. It's super easy to get the first one, and it gives you 1 prayer bonus as well. Next up, we're going to start adding our early mid-game untradables, the first and best of which is the Dragon Defender, which gives us a massive bonus to our accuracy and a pretty sizable bonus to our melee strength as well. Helm of Nezi, not really an untradable, but it is a quest unlock. Really, I guess depends if you like questing, but this one's gonna give you a 3 strength bonus and some prayer bonus to boot. The first big quest milestone is going to be completing Recipe for Disaster, and this is going to unlock the Barrow's gloves. They cost 130k, but this is going to be your best in slot glove until the late game. I messed up on the graphic here, but it was supposed to say torso. What you're gonna do, you're gonna go over to Barbarian Assault and you are going to grind yourself out a torso. This is not nearly as bad as everybody says. Just make sure you watch a quick guide beforehand and you should be able to bang this out in 2 hours at the very most. Next up, and maybe not at this point, it really depends more on your range level, but you should go and get yourself a fire cape whenever you can. It's a great cape. It offers you great defensive bonuses. It offers you some accuracy. It offers you the most strength you can get until you get an Infernal cape. This is a must-have for anyone in the early to mid game. The last thing that I can add before I go over budget into the next tier is the Dragon Boots. This is going to double our boot slot's melee strength. It's going to cost a little over 100k, and it is going to offer us some decent defensive bonuses as well. I really wanted to put this one in the last one, but it just barely didn't fit in, but I would suggest you get a Barrow's leg piece. It's just going to be good for the extra defense. It doesn't add any offensive capabilities, but they're cheap, and you might as well. For 200k, you get a sizable defense bonus, and I personally prefer the VERAC skirt because it also gives you a prayer bonus. This tier is going to be a short one just because all the next upgrades that I think you should be getting do cost a bit more money. The last one that we can squeak in here is the Warrior Ring Eye. You are going to upgrade out of this fairly soon, but as we are stuck here with our tiny little bank, you might as well get a little bit extra slash bonus. Next up, we're going to add the Abyssal Whip. Massive upgrade for everybody's account. Super iconic moment. I remember my first whip all too well. First place I went, straight to Castle Wars. This was a long time ago when that was the place to be though. Nowadays, you can just use this for Slayer or whatever else you are doing. Just another thing, after this, the next few upgrades in this section aren't really in any particular order. They're probably going to be gotten all at once you get a big drop or something like that. And this is also the last section that isn't going to be super niched out. And I'm going to try to stick as much as possible to just a general melee setup. Next, we're going to unlock the Amulet of Fury. The Amulet of Fury does give us some extra melee strength, so likely an additional max hit. But the big winner for the Amulet of Fury is the prayer bonus and the massive defense bonus that it gives you. Next up, we got the B-Ring Eye, which is going to give us +8 strength bonus, which if you look at our overall melee strength, 8 is a massive percentage upgrade, and we're likely to get 2 or 3 max hits. I don't really have the calc in this setup, but I know with later setups, especially when we get to the Scythe, the B-Ring is going to be massive. Next up, we got Obby Legs. These are going to be your best in slot legs until you can afford Bandos Tacets. Next up, we are going to get the Kraken Tentacle, attach it to our whip, so we will be using our Tent Whip. This is going to give us some additional slash bonus, some additional melee strength. It's going to bump up our requirements to 75 attack, and this is going to be our best slash weapon for a good amount of time. Let's take a pause here and talk about special attack weapons, since this is going to be in addition to our main DPS setup, but they're going to be extremely important. I should have put the Dragon Dagger way earlier in this, but I already made all those graphics and I'm not going back now. So Dragon Dagger, really good against low defense enemies. It's not very accurate, but when this thing goes off, it absolutely goes off. And the upgrade to this kind of concept is the Chally or the Crystal Halberd. This thing is super inaccurate, but when this thing goes off, it goes off. You can blast like 150 damage on bloat. Anything with low defense, this is going to tear right through. With the Chally, the strategy is to use it for the last hit because it does have a really long cooldown before you get to your next attack. So you don't really want to be blasting Challys mid-kill because you are going to be wasting a lot of DPS waiting for your next attack. This is the part of the video where I beg you to like the video and subscribe to my channel. It helps out tremendously. Thank you very much. From here on out, all the upgrades are going to be worth a lot of money. The first one is going to help us with all of our melee attack styles, and that is the Amulet of Torture. I am a big Zenite enjoyer, and I think this one is great because it gives you both accuracy and strength, and only costs like 10 mil nowadays, which is not even that bad. Next up, we have our kind of best in slot stab weapon. It's the Osmundton's Fang. So the Fang is really good against monsters with high defense due to the way that it double rolls your accuracy. I'm not going to get too far into it, but this one is going to be a massive upgrade over the Tent Whip on anything that has high defense or is weak to stab. The Tentacle Whip is going to be your best friend on things currently that are low defense or things that are weak to slash. So this is where we start to niche off. You're going to want to use the Fang on TOA. It's essentially necessary for the Tombs of a Masket. It's pretty good in a bunch of places on Cox, and it's pretty good in a few rooms in the Theater of Blood as well. Our next upgrade is actually going to be a special attack weapon. It's the Bandos Godsword. I'm going to put this one over the Dragon Warhammer just because it is useful in more places. It has a different use than the Dragon Warhammer. This one is primarily used to lower the defense of monsters. It's super accurate due to its massive slash bonus. And this is definitely going to be a good one to get early on. You're going to want to use this at God Wars Dungeon if you and your boys are doing some melee bandos. It's good to bring to Cox. It's good to bring to Tob. Some people bring it to TOA. I don't really think you should anymore, but if you don't have any other spec weapons, you might as well bring it into TOA. And it's a good all-around spec if you need to lower the defense of whatever you're fighting. So I only had 19 mil to work with here, and I think the best upgrade that we can get at this point is going to be the Ferocious Gloves. This is going to give us both stab accuracy and some melee strength. So this is going to impact pretty much all of our different setups, whether it be the slash one or whether it be the stab one. So all around, this is going to be a really good upgrade for 9 mil. The gloves themselves, they're untradeable, but you can always break them back down to the leather. Next up, we have the Lightbearer. The Lightbearer is going to be great for any content where you are going to want to send special attacks. If you do not know, the Lightbearer changes your special attack regen rate to double its normal rate, so you'll be able to use twice as many special attacks. This is useful in content where you are not constantly attacking with melee the whole time, think things like the Tombs of Amasket, the Chambers of Xeric, but not the Theater of the Blood. The Theater of Blood, you are going to want to use your Berserker Ring. Things like Slayer, you're going to camp the Berserker Ring. So really just feel this one out. The next really good upgrade and another best in slot is going to be our Primordial Boots. It's going to give us a little bit of accuracy and a little bit of extra melee strength. Another decently affordable and sell-backable upgrade is going to be the Face Guard. This is going to give us a little bit of extra melee strength. It's also a good helm because it does provide a prayer bonus. It is time to upgrade our legs. Those obby ones did look a little bit newbie. We're going to upgrade to the Bandos Tasses. These aren't going to improve our setup too much. They do give us 1 melee strength, and they are a good bit tankier than the obby legs. The Dragon Warhammer is a fantastic special attack weapon. It is a percentage-based drain of the opponent's defense as long as you land the spec. This is a must-have if you are doing the Theater of Blood or the Chambers of Xeric. It is also almost necessary for the Corporeal Beast. You can do it without it, but it definitely speeds things up a little bit. So the Avernic Defender is going to be our next upgrade on this list. It is a great upgrade, but it is permanent. It does cost 88 mil currently, which is really high compared to the recent past. However, this one is going to give you 5 accuracy bonus along with 2 strength bonus, which makes it a sizable upgrade over the prior Dragon Defender, and this is our best in slot offhand. Next up, we have the Infernal Cape. I didn't really know where to put this because just like its predecessor, the Fire Cape, the best in slot cape in RuneScape is gained not with the melee skill, it is gained with the range and usually the mage skill as well. So this is going to depend more on your competency as a player, your range setup, and your mage setup as well. So if you feel comfortable, this is a really good upgrade. It's going to give you 3 extra accuracy bonuses to whatever melee style you are using, and it's going to double the Fire Cape's 4 strength bonus, giving you a total of 8. Next up, we are going to have our best in slot offensive spec weapon. You could debate that the Void Waker is better in circumstances when the enemy does have a higher defense level, but at lower defense, and in the Theater of Blood, my favorite piece of content, Dragon Claws reign supreme. They are going to give you a massive amount of damage when you use their special attack. They are not necessarily necessary in the Theater of Blood, but they are really good in the Theater of Blood. They are extremely good in the Chambers of Xeric for Vasa, including challenge modes, basically necessary for any speedrun in there. And they're generally good at a large amount of other content as well for anything where you need slash-based DPS. Next up, we have the Bandos Chestplate. This one is going to give you the same offensive bonus as the +4 strength that the torso did before it. However, this is going to give you a prayer bonus and a defense bonus. Usually people get this pretty late, and I would recommend doing that. However, your OCD might not allow you to do that, so you can always get it earlier. Not really too big of a deal. This does cost 30 mil. This does give you the added bonus of looking a little bit less newbie. Nothing screams I'm going to scam you than the dude rolling up to your Theater of Blood lobby wearing the torso and the obby legs. Since I did not put this on the next slide, I did want to take a brief moment to talk about replacing the Tint Whip. Since we are kind of niched out at this point into the Fang being our best in slot for high defense monsters, we still need to replace something for the low defense monsters, mainly Slayer. For this, you basically have 3 choices, but 2 real choices, the Rapier and the Salad Blade. The Salad Blade is a great choice if you want to do the Theater of Blood and cannot afford a Scythe yet, because this is going to be a slash weapon. If you don't really care about that, or you already have a Scythe, the Rapier is going to be a great choice for a Slayer weapon. It's going to be really good for the core on Wardens for the TOA if you're running no special attacks. It has a few other uses, but mainly just think these 2 weapons if you are going to think low defense and need to deal a lot of damage. Also keep in mind that the Rapier costs like 40 mil, while the Salad Blade is currently over 100 mil. Ooh, new budget category. First thing we're gonna do now that we unlock some GP is get ourselves a scythe. No, not that scythe. This scythe. The Scythe of Vitter. The Scythe of Vitter has a unique mechanic where it does hit 3 times on enemies that are a 3x3 or up to 3 smaller enemies. Each subsequent damage or attack is less damage. You get 1 full damage attack, 1 50%, and then another at 25. The Scythe is not super accurate, so it is good against monsters with low defense or monsters that you have lowered the defense for, and monsters that are at least a 3x3. This weapon excels at all of the Slayer boss monsters that you use melee against. It is the best in slot at pretty much all of them. It's best in slot at the Theater of Blood, it's best in slot at many parts of Cox, and it has tons of uses all around the game. The one downside is that it is fairly expensive to use, as you do have to use blood vials and blood runes to charge it. Next up, we got the TORVA helm, just a straight linear upgrade over the predecessor. I actually messed up this graphic. You do need 80 strength to wield this. It's going to give us 2 melee strength, nothing huge, but it is also a great defensive helm, and this is going to be our best in slot for the helm slot. I also did make a mistake here. Since we have added the scythe here, we do need 90 strength as well. I don't feel like doing these one by one. We're gonna buy the rest of the TORVA set. We are looking like an absolute ched. These each give you 2 strength bonuses over its predecessor, maxing out both of our chest and leg slots. Let's talk about the 2 new desert treasure rings, both the ULTOR and BELLATOR rings. The ULTOR is actually going to be a better upgrade than any of the TORVA pieces. It gives you a +4 strength bonus over the Berserker ring for a total of +12, which is more than any of the +2 that the TORVA pieces give you. So if you are doing something like the Theater of Blood or Slayer or something like that, this is going to be the better upgrade before you get the TORVA. If you are running the Theater of Blood, the BELLATOR ring is going to be a better choice for you. It is going to make the scythe extremely accurate, and it is going to speed up your raid considerably, especially on the bosses of Sodetseg and on the second phase of VERAC. The prices on these, since they are new, are all over the place. They are going to be different 1 week from now or whenever you're watching this video, so just add these into your gear tab at your discretion. I know I mentioned earlier, but I did want to get Voidwaker just onto this infographic. Voidwaker is a great special attack weapon. It's kind of similar to Claws, is that it's 4 tick. It uses half of your special attack. The only crazy difference about this one is that it does have a guaranteed hit. It uses magic, so it's just going to absolutely bonk enemies with high defense. That's where you want to use this thing, or it's really good for anti-PKing if you're into that type of thing. So you might be buying this one way earlier, back when we bought the claws in this guide. It really just depends on the type of content that you want to be doing. This one also doubles as a really good 4-tick melee attack weapon, so this could replace the rapier or the tent whip in any of your setup. Is perfectly viable to use against any low defense monster where you would normally use a 4-tick attack weapon. I know this whole last part's been kind of weird compared to some of the other ones. It's just the melee skill is so niched out compared to the other ones. Like, it really depends on what type of content you want to do or what type of gear you should get. I tried to provide a general guide, which brings us to Inquisitor, which is just in a kind of weird place. Inquisitor is an armor specifically focused on the crush attack method. So the way that Inquisitor works is that in the crush attack bonus, it gives you a flat 32 to your crush, which is extremely sizable. But wait, there's more. It also, if wearing the full set, gives you a 2.5% accuracy and damage boost on top of this. This is super niche, as it doesn't really have too many uses in the game. This would be great against bosses like Sarachnis, the Nightmare, and Fasani's Nightmare, where it does come from. The Inquisitor's Mace is second best in slot on those bosses after the Scythe, but it does not use any charges, so it's probably the better option since those bosses really don't drop anything for you. The Inquisitor set is really good for the Chambers of Xeric, especially Challenge Mode Chambers of Xeric for landing Dragon Warhammer specs. The Mace is best in slot against Tecton. This can also be brought into super sweaty Theater of Bloods by certain roles if you have the room for it to land Dragon Warhammer specs, and it can be used in in conjunction with the ham joint to be best in slot at the Nylo's room, but honestly, that's overkill in 99.9% of Theater of Bloods that you are going to be running. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like the video, make sure that you do like the video. I do know that I skipped a lot of different gear upgrades. I do have to make this video within a certain time limit where people are willing to watch it, and honestly, a lot of them you can just skip over. If there's any glaring changes that you would personally make, please let me and everybody else watching know down in the comments section below, but I do really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.